Executive Director's Report. Tim?
Okay, if everybody has a copy, I'll touch on some of the high points. One thing to remember, and take home, if you haven't registered and you want a nice night out, Tuesday, October 8th, 6 p.m. at Wolford Roost Country Club is our annual EMS Awards banquet. We're up to, I think, about 65 registrants. I got to cap it at 100 if we get 100, but once again, if you're interested, let us know. Everybody knows this, but I think it bears repeating, is our EMS winners at Vital Signs this year. Sheriff Craig Apple took home the Harriet C. Weber Award. Wilton EMS for excellence in EMS quality and safety. And this fellow sitting over here drinking over there right now, Mike Daly, NAEMT Medical Director of the Year.
Water. So you say.
And I was just advised yesterday, DOH or BEMS is starting some more award, or I've started or instituted some new award categories for innovation in EMS. And the fellow that just walked in happens to be the chief of one of the agencies that's going to be recognized this year. Delmar Bethlehem will receive the inaugural EMS Agency Innovation Award this year at Vital Signs. Maybe Steve can speak to that a little bit more later. And anybody has an extra 3 or 4 hours the next couple days, CMAC and Remsco over at the Hilton Garden Inn in Troy. That's about it. We're working on a protocol update and stuff. A little more will be spoken to about that later on. And if you have not, I think everybody in this room has, please get me those sexual harassment acknowledgement forms. That would conclude my report unless anybody has any questions for anything else I had on here.
So I apologize for being late. I ran into Deputy Chief Newton in the parking lot, and he had mentioned to me that he is not a member, so he was wondering what would be necessary for Albany Fire to be represented here in the future, and so we talked about that for a moment or two, so I apologize for being late. All right, so Chairperson's report. And first, Tim, thank you for everything you've put on here, quite a bit happening. I have to remind everybody that, I can't see you because my eyes are bad and everybody's sitting way in the back. But also, we do all have to complete our harassment training. It's required by state law. So if everybody has to do the training and then give Tim their proof. Do you have a deadline that you want to set, Tim?
It's October,
12th?
actually tonight would be great. I think it's October 19th, I believe.
I thought it was the 12th. But
Could be the
hospital
12th.
said
So ASAP.
Okay. Would you like to send out a deadline email to everyone that says, I need it by this date?
Tomorrow
so that
morning.
Everybody knows, that would be great, okay. Okay, so, 3 things on the chairperson's report, and I will mention that the executive committee did meet over the summer time. We will talk about all the things that the executive committee talked about during the meeting tonight, but mostly it was about the work plan, and so that'll come up tonight. So the first thing is we have a Remsco membership application from Charles Welch from the Albany County Department of Health. I think everyone remembers that we talked about this before we left for the summer. After we talked about it and felt it was a pretty good idea to ask about having some at-large representation by somebody from the hospital and healthcare and public health community, we did check with the chair of the membership committee, and she gave us the thumbs up that this made sense. So we bring you before this application tonight for approval. We sent the resume out to everybody over the summer, and so everyone can take a look at the qualifications of this individual. I'd like to ask for a motion to be made for membership, and when the chair of the committee makes it, a second. And since we haven't really discussed it too much, maybe if there's any discussion, any questions anyone wants to ask about that, we can.
I'll just speak quickly to Charles's experience. Had the opportunity to work with Charles on a number of projects through the County Department of Health over the course of the last 10 years. He has been an absolute delight to work with, and frankly, I think the perspective of somebody from a County Department of Health in this body would be fantastic. So I wholeheartedly support his application.
Well, that's awesome. So, is any other discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so, Tim, if you'll work with the secretary perhaps to give Mr. Welch a official notification of his membership and then the meeting dates, and perhaps even schedule him to come in to meet with you if he can for an orientation, and you can either invite the officers or whoever you think needs to be there, give him a little background. But as much as I think we're going to give to him, I think we can also find out what he can give to us. What does he do in the public health realm that is information that we don't have or might not have that would be useful for us? And I realize he only represents one county, but maybe what we need to let him know is that even though he represents Albany County, we make up 6 counties, and perhaps, you know, if we ever ask him to present to us on something, he can do a little bit of looking around with his colleagues and the other, you know, bring information on all the counties, not just one. You know, on any of the various topics they're working on, you know, whether it be the opioid epidemic or other things. Cool. Okay. Leadership conference update. On November 8th, there is going to be what I think is now being called the Northeastern Leadership Conference that has been co-sponsored by Remo, and it's also being sponsored by, and I met, let's see, it's the regional, what's Travis's region called? Tim, I messed
Mountain
this
Lakes.
up. Mountain Lakes. It's Mountain Lakes, which makes up the counties directly to our north in the eastern Adirondacks, not the western Adirondacks. I think you've all received the brochure. It is designed for us to, it's been worked on over the summer. Tim's been part of the planning committee. You know, a couple of others of us have been on the planning committee. The idea is this is a CME for leaders and managers to think about leading into the future. I think it's going to be a great program. We tried to make it about $100, not to be too expensive. Remo, with your graciousness, is a sponsor of it and putting some money into the program, which I think is great. Some folks from here are going to be presenters at the program. We have a nationally known speaker coming in as well. So please take a look at it. There was another leadership program that we have always said nice things about, the Emergency Responder Leadership Academy, that would have been held this past week, I believe, in the Hudson Valley. It was canceled because of a lack of registration. They just didn't have enough registrants. That program had always been in the spring. They moved it to the fall. It's now been rescheduled, the same program in May. But I think this is a great program. We're one of the few regions. I know the Northern New York folks on the western side, and what are they called? What's the Fort Drum region, or?
Yes.
North Country.
They've
Is it
scheduled a
North Country?
multi-day leadership conference. This is going to be just a one-day thing. So please, Tim, we should continue promoting it throughout with, you know, on the website, on Facebook. Agencies, please feel free to send a few folks if you can. Tim has already sent the agenda out, right, to everybody? We've sent the agenda out to everybody?
The agenda for the conference?
Yeah, you know,
We've
the
sent the
speakers,
flyers, save the
list of
date,
speakers,
yes,
stuff,
yes.
yeah. We should just keep sending that out on a, you know, not every week or anything, but keep reminding folks about it. Okay, hospital linen exchange programs. This one's not going to be fun, but let's talk about it. During the summer, I sent a letter on our behalf to both Albany Medical Center and St. Peter's Hospital. We had originally talked about getting a group of people together to write the letter. That group never came together. And then St. Peter's announced they were changing their linen program with no notice whatsoever. And the change that St. Peter's was making and the change that Albany Med were making didn't line up. Basically, it would be that there would be no blankets available at all from St. Peter's, and so I wrote the letter. I think it's been sent out, and you've all seen the letter. I had a bunch of people look, yeah.
Very well written letter.
Oh, thank you. And I think some people in this room gave input into the letter, but thank you, Lynn. The good news is St. Peter's Hospital called us within 24 hours and said, we will absolutely agree to come to the table and have a meeting with you, bring the other hospitals, we'll bring our linen company, and we will not make any changes. There is a backstory here. I think that the folks that made the decision at St. Peter's made it without checking with all the people they needed to before making it, so St. Peter's felt like they were caught off guard. Nonetheless, St. Peter's agreed to a moratorium. Unfortunately, that moratorium is almost up. Since that happened, we have not heard back from Albany Medical Center. So we did send the letter to them,
Yeah,
same letter.
he just got a phone call.
Okay. If it's on this top, no. I see, okay. We did send a follow-up communication to Albany Medical Center. I know as a fact that the people at Albany Medical Center who received the letter have received it because they have discussed it, and they've discussed what to do in response, but there has been no response whatsoever. So we've made attempts to contact them. There's been no response back. I even made an attempt to go through the Albany Med system to get a phone call in from someone else. There's no response back. I don't have an answer for anybody here about what Albany Medical Center is going to do, other than the letter was sent in July, and it's now the end of September. It was the last week of July, I believe, July 30th or something of that sort. You know, they went the whole month of August and the whole month of September. I don't know what to tell St. Peter's. St. Peter's keeps calling me and saying, so when are we going to have this meeting? I think what we have to do is have the meeting with St. Peter's and just us. But it's not a really productive meeting if one of the players is not at the table. I can't make them, I don't know how to get them to the table. So, I don't know, Anne Marie, I know you've been involved in some of our conversations. Anything to add to that?
No, just that we reached out and didn't receive, I made 2 phone calls as well,
So,
did not.
So, I mean, it's troubling to me in 2 respects. Number one, that, you know, Albany Medical Center doesn't want to work with us on this specific thing, but also, the Regional EMS Council is the gathering place for all of the EMS agencies in the region that are the part of the pre-hospital care system, and it just sends a really, I think, negative message that they don't want to talk to us about it. Even if it's to meet with us and say, look, we're really sorry, but, you know, this is the way it's going to be. I still think that there's the place for a regional solution here, because, you know, Albany Medical Center sheets end up at St. Peter's Hospital, St. Peter's sheets end up at Albany Med. They're very different colors, we can tell, right? So somebody should be, you know, draw like a box on the street between the 2 hospitals, and, you know, one emissary from each hospital should come and meet each week, and they should exchange bags. I don't know, there has to be something we can do on a regional basis, and I don't mean to say that flippantly, but I mean, I think that we should be working together, the hospitals. In addition, I know that the other hospitals in the region are feeling the squeeze because EMS providers that are not able to get linen from Albany Med and St. Peter's are going to go get it in other places. I know Saratoga is beginning to feel the squeeze. We do need a regional solution to this problem. Even if the regional solution to this problem involves the EMS provider agencies doing something they don't do now. But what I know is with winter coming, I mean, even though it was 88 degrees today, in a couple weeks, not having blankets on our stretchers at night is going to be a real problem. So each one of us are going to be out there with some sort of linen contracts of our own, or some other thing to compensate and cope for this. If anyone has any ideas they want to share about a regional solution that we work on ourselves, you know, we've all tried group purchasing and it didn't work. So I don't know if that's it, but I know Carol sent an email around a couple weeks ago saying, hey, what's everybody doing? We're getting closer to the point where we're going to all have to do something on our own. I'll keep banging away at getting Albany Medical Center to be part of the conversation, but I'm somewhat discouraged that they were meeting tonight and we made clear, you know, I think there were some messages about, you know, we're having our meeting, we need to know. And so, I don't know if anyone else got anything to add? Okay. All right, well, that was not fun, but necessary. Okay. So, the next thing is the Innovative Payment Work Group update. I would love for Dr. Daly to be here for it because he's been such a big part of this. So I'm going to just, maybe we can skip forward a little bit and maybe come back. And we'll skip the medical director's report because Dr. Daly, is everyone okay with skipping forward and coming back? Okay. So REMAC academic, Dr. McHugh.
So REMAC, biggest issue was about 20-minute discussion on the wording of the Tylenol education. It's sad, but that's true. After that, we are renewing the letter to continue to use expired meds, which has to be done every couple of months. A whole lot of other stuff. We'll have a stroke update in December. And information, we discussed the matters of medically assisted treatment and emergency referral system, which is developed in Buffalo and soon to be coming to this area, which is nice. You stop by the ED, you get your first dose of Suboxone and get set up with your rehab appointment from there. Next big thing is looking at developing a regional supplement to Part 800 because it's very much out of date. Like, you don't need to have an AED. So until that gets up to date, we're going to look at doing a regional minimum equipment list.
Okay, funny you should say that. The State EMS Council is meeting this weekend and going to talk about, they have a committee working on an update for Part 800 equipment list. So, all right, treasurer's report.
Okay, you all have the financials in front of you as of the end of August. Of particular note, if you look at the total assets this year, 587,000 compared to last year at 588,000, pretty low, in pretty good shape. Our total investments are up about 18,000 compared to a year ago, which is good. And if you look at the bottom of the sheet, you'll see a note that says 86,122 in future payments from New York State. That's really a $39,000 reimbursement voucher for the EMT class, as well as 2 contract state vouchers, which we haven't received yet. Is that correct, Tim?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, the state voucher is 36,000, but yes.
Okay. If you flip over to page 2, you'll see where we are year-to-date as of the end of August compared to last year, looking pretty favorable. You'll notice on where it says appropriated fund balance is $60,000. We've had to draw against our operating account, basically because of the receivable that I just spoke to you about. So that will balance itself out as we move along. That's the end of the August financial report. Would you like me to go right into the budget? Or do you want to hold on?
Can I ask you a question first, and then, yeah?
Ken.
So, being that are you gonna be able to estimate what our end of year surplus is going to be as part of the,
$1 million.
awesome. Can we have that next year too? Did you have an estimate on that yet, or?
We're gonna be close to breaking even,
Okay. All right,
hopefully.
okay. Tim?
That's part of the budget?
Yep, okay, so Tim has been working with PJ and Dave over the last couple months on the budget for next year. I think Tim indicated in his report email over the summer that the Department of Health has a new budget analyst in the Bureau of EMS that is, I don't know if they're changing some of the rules and how we account for things, or whether they're just tightening up on enforcement, but there's been a significant questioning of Remsco finances, and that's requiring us to do some things a little bit different in the future. For example, things that we routinely pay for may not be able to be paid for out of state grant funds. For example, Tim told me that when it was time to buy the award plaques for the regional award winners, he got a lot of pushback from the Bureau of EMS of, what do you mean you're using state funds to buy the award plaques for this awards that the state has told us to give?
I actually had applied directly to Ryan and reach out to Ryan, who
So-
ultimately approved it. but,
So it was ultimately approved, and I think we could all say that that's a bureaucracy that was probably is unnecessary. But Dave, PJ, and Tim have tried to design a budget process where we can avoid known friction points with the state. Is that a correct way of saying it?
Yes.
So with that, let's turn it over to you guys to present the budget for next year.
Okay, you have the operating budget in front of you. Basically, we tried to make this as simple as we could. We put the 18-19 budget down, and actually, the next column was actually year-to-date. And that's actually through about the middle of September when we worked on this budget. So the figures are actually pretty true. We had a couple more weeks left in September. But a couple of notes. You will see that the appropriated fund balance for 18-19, what we had to draw against 60,000 compared to the 56 because of the huge receivable that's out there. That will actually, like I said, even itself out. But in 19-20, we're only projecting $11,653 that we may have to draw from fund balance. And again, the word is may, depending upon the education portion. Now, a particular note, I went back a couple years ago. In our first year, remember when we started this program, we talked about the business plan per se, and we knew we were gonna have to throw in investments to bring it up to speed. In 17 and 18, we had appropriated $114,000 that may have to come out of fund balance. So we're now projecting about 11.6, so that's a good sign. We're moving in the right direction. The training funds, this is all revenue. You'll see we're projecting 64,500. So if you go to page 2, what we've done is we've tried to break out the training account separate from the operating account so we can actually see. The question has always been, is training paying for itself? Is it not paying for itself? Where are we going with this? So you will see that the New York State course reimbursement, we projected an income of $90,000. Now Dave, Tim, and I have really wrestled with this number. However, we're at about 60 at the end of this year. And Tim has said he believes that we'll be able to hit that $90,000 mark. So, again, it's broken down by revenue, $270,000 in revenue, less the expenditures, which will be your training coordinator, your instructors, books, the course expenses, and the training supplies. So we're looking at generating a profit of $64,500 out of the training account, which will go directly into the operating account. So that's where that money, that's where that line item comes from. A couple other notes in the budget itself. We had to jump the rent up to $61,000. 18-19 was only 53. That was before we made the move, and you'll see it's very low for the year to date. And that's because we had how many months of free rent, Tim?
3 months,
3 months of free rent.
or 2 months. 2 months,
2 months.
I think.
But at the rental per month, comes out to $61,000. We moved, we subtracted, we lowered the office equipment, which was $8,000 last year. We moved that down to $2,000. Tim feels like we're pretty well set to move forward. Employee training, last year we had budgeted $7,000. Tim feels like we only need $1,000, so that was a good sign. And the other discussion, I'm glad to see Dr. Daly is not here. We took him right out of the account, right out of the budget. Actually, it was Dave's suggestion, and I thought it was an excellent suggestion, that the medical directors, which we changed the name of that, Tim, to
Medical operations.
Medical operations, because of the problems that we're running into with the state. And Doc, glad to see you came back, because I don't know if you noticed in the budget or not, we took all your money away. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but
I'm used to it.
Dave had a suggestion that should come to, how about we take that out of the radio fund, which I thought was an excellent suggestion. We get complaints all the time from different agencies. What are we getting for our money? What are we getting for our money? So it will solve 2 problems for us. The one is the state looking over our shoulders to see what the medical director is spending, and it's not authorized here, it's not authorized there. I mean, it's just, you just can't believe, it's unbelievable. So we decided that we could take that $8,000 directly out of the radio account, which has a balance in it now of about $40,000.
Don't see the radio or training, PJ, you know,
Yeah.
but places where we have that flexibility.
Right. But that way the state, we're not subject to the state. So what we try to do is come up with a balanced budget. So you'll see total income of $316,830 and total expenditures of $316,830. To answer Steve's question, to project where we are, you'll see the year-to-date through mid-September, we're at a negative $2,800, which isn't bad. So we've worked hard at this. We've tried to come up with something that the council could understand. We could follow on a monthly basis to see what direction we're going in. There were some mistakes that we made last year, that I won't say I made last year. I failed to, in the training account, I failed to put the instructor salaries in. That's why you see there was a projected profit at $82,400, but that's history. So I think we've got it down now. We've got it nailed down pretty good. Dave and Tim were instrumental in helping come up with this budget, and I just hope that it's something that you can understand and we can follow as we move forward. I have one other thing. As I was looking through my notes today, I realized there was a suggestion that we put a line item in for donations, which we did not do in this budget. And again, I'm not sure, Tim, where that money can come out of. I'm not sure we're gonna be able to take donations out of this operating account. So,
Maybe that's something we can set an amount separately and handle it similar to the new medical operations account,
yep,
and maybe set an amount anyway.
yep.
Well, first, thank you very much for, number one, building a budget that will minimize our difficulties in explaining it to folks, and two, that works better with the state. So when you say that we're negative 2,800 so far at this year, but we're owed $89,000, right? So in reality,
86.
when you take the success of our training programs, we actually had a positive year by roughly $80,000.
No, because we took 60 out of our fund balance, or our savings
Okay.
account.
Right.
So actually, we should end up with around a positive 20.
Okay, positive 20, so, okay, because we're paying back what we borrowed.
Depending on timing.
Right, so, and of course, it may not show that, because if the money comes in after the beginning of next fiscal
Correct.
year, we show a loss this year, but we will show a gain for next year.
That's correct.
But we're solidly in the black,
And we're trending in the right
and
direction.
trending in the right direction. Well, that's great. Are there any questions for PJ on the budget for next year?
Just if I could add one
Yeah,
thing, I have
please.
to thank PJ because he took part directly in several of the DOH conference calls with the new budget director and some other folks at DOH. So he has firsthand knowledge of what we're facing now. And I'm not saying it's bad what they're doing. It's just that they're doing things a little bit differently now. And we're being held to a little bit different standard than we have in the past. That's it, but PJ had firsthand knowledge of,
Right.
what we're dealing with.
And I want to thank PJ because for many years, it's been hard to add up where we are by looking at two pieces of paper. And by putting that training account on a separate piece of paper and then having a line item in the main budget that shows where the training account comes in, you can really understand now, A, how the training account affects our overall bottom line, and B, you can see whether or not our training programs are earning or not. And, if they were costing us money, then we'd have to question why are we doing these extra things? But we're in an opposite position where they actually support the overall operation of the region, so. All right, so, do we want to adopt the budget tonight then?
I'll be happy to make that motion.
Okay.
I'll
Motion-
second it.
Second. All right, is there any further discussion on the budget? All right, all those in favor of adopting the budget?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? do we need to take any specific action on adopting the medical operations budget out of the radio account?
I would think that you just need to make a motion that you would approve the if you wanted to keep the $8,000 in there, but I see there's another request also for this month, so I don't know if you wanna put that together.
Well, but the requests for this month and next month are gonna be in different timeframes.
Financial year.
Yeah, so why don't we, so would it make sense to make a motion that we take 8,000
I suggest we take
from
8,000.
medical operations for the fiscal year 2020-21 to, I'm sorry, to take 8,000 from the radio account to pay for medical operations in fiscal year 19-20.
I'll second that.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? Are there any, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have a budget, and we have a medical operations budget for next year. Okay, so Dr. Daly, while you were out, we skipped over the innovative payment work group because thought you would want to be here for that, and then we can do the medical director report. So the innovative payment work group had started having some conversations, and a little bit of work went on, and I think the consensus for most people in that group was that applying for the ET3 program this year might be a hill too hard to climb, and turned out that was not correct. But there was a meeting held at CDPHP that Dr. Daly went to and a number of the ambulance agencies here went to, and also a meeting held with MVP that in a minute I'll ask Dr. Daly to describe. In addition, some work was done on defining the medical control standards or potential medical control standards for medical control to assist us with the ET3 program. And so about 2 weeks ago, I got a call from someone saying, what are we doing about ET3? And I said, well, it looks like the deadline's almost here, so I'm guessing we're going to go for round 2. Since then, a number of EMS agencies that are in the region have either submitted applications for ET3 or are in the process of submitting applications. 2 things have happened since that time. Number 1, the deadline got moved out a couple weeks to now October 5th, I believe. In addition, the statement that there would be probably 3 rounds of ET3 applications was rescinded to saying, well, there'll be 1 and we'll see what to do about anything else later. So, I don't know, Dr. Daly, are we at liberty to talk about which agencies are doing this tonight? Or are those that of you wish to self-identify, or?
We've got a whole lot of secrets here. I mean, what we're ultimately doing is applying something that will be part of the public record. But, you know, there are 3 different organizations that really seem to be working towards a goal, but are also sharing information with each other. The model, I think, that was shared with us, that I've shared on to everybody in the region who's mentioned an interest. If there's anybody else who would like a copy of it, that certainly is accessible through Tim, but it's the FDNY application. You know, if ever there were a group of disparate organizations that are coming together to form a regional approach to innovation in healthcare, it certainly exists in New York City. And it's their application is impressive, to say the least. It's thick, it's comprehensive, it has a lot of very interesting ideas, some of which apply to us, some of which do not apply to us, which is why I think it's important for the people who are applying here locally to be able to see it. The only people at this point that we know are actively moving towards an ET3 application are Mohawk Empire and the town of Colonnade. If there's anybody else that is working on a project without coming together with us, we welcome the company to share ideas, share concepts. None of what's going on here is ultimately proprietary. Everything will have to have relatively similar quality structure. Everything will have to have a relatively similar process of medical control. Because there just aren't extra resources to do this without sharing services. So the strength is with us all together, and hopefully people will be able to share things that they're working on. I've completed some sections of the application and made them available to folks, just for their own ease. And at the REMAC in 2 weeks, we'll do some voting on some extra policy things that need to be there in order to make sure that ET3 can happen. Things like alternative destinations that have to be voted on and officially approved. So ET3 is exciting. Hopefully we'll be able to participate in it, and hopefully it will end up serving as the boon to EMS that we certainly hope it will. And I know from Dr. McHugh's perspective and my perspective, hopefully it reduces the volume in our emergency departments a little bit.
That's what I've got the urgent cares, so it's gonna be balancing out the workload.
Yeah, but you want your urgent cares to be busy. That's okay. You want your urgent care to be busy. So, hopefully we can get something together, and I think we do. It would be something impressive.
Do you want to mention anything about the meetings with MVP and CDP?
Sure. I guess the take home from both the meeting at MVP and the meeting at CDPHP was wow. The meeting at MVP was a solid hour of us sharing ideas on how we can do a better job for their patients, and how it can, by keeping EMS payments whole where they are now, can still end up leading to significant cost savings for the folks, for the payer. The meeting at CDPHP lasted arguably 8 minutes. And the reason it was 8 minutes was because we walked in the door and they said, we love this idea, we support it entirely, let's work on it going forward. Okay, thanks. And they were on board. This has been remarkable to go into meetings and have people thoroughly supportive of these ideas. So we just have to watch and see how these pieces actually come together as the rubber meets the road.
So the next meeting of the work group is October 10th, Thursday, at 12 noon here, and I believe lunch will be served. Any agency that wishes to come is permitted, is invited. Tim, I think you sent that note out to all agencies, right?
Yes.
And we'll send them a reminder before that date. Part of it will be to talk about just what's happening on ET3. There's still maybe another round, other people may apply. I know there's at least one other agency that's working on a application that, I don't know that I can disclose yet, but I know at least one other that's working on one. In addition, the folks at CDPHP and MVP are interested in more than just ET3. They're interested in how we can take care of all the people that they have insurance on, so that's their private pay, that's their Medicare, that's their Medicaid. And they're the two largest insurers in our region, so we might come up with something else with them.
It's a concept.
Any other comments, questions, ideas? All right, medical director report.
I'm going to open my report with a request for some funding, please. So, as many of you know, we have a released collaborative protocols updated that has been placed on the state website. The protocols that are actually on the state website have some errors in them because they were not updated to the things that were passed by the CMAC and the State Council in May, although they were supposed to have been. We're going to work on fixing that tomorrow. But in the meantime, what we also don't have is a pathway to updating the application that most folks have been using on their iPhones and their Androids with the protocol on it. Not quite sure how that happened. It probably happened because of the process that we went through to get the protocols on the state website. I have to apologize for that, and I have been doing that. But what we do need to do is update the app. Several of the other regions have said that they would step up and assist us with the process of paying for this. One in particular, Monroe Livingston, has said that they would foot the bill themselves, and I said that we should all share in this. They said yes, and several other program agency directors have already expressed an interest in paying. But I would like to make sure that we can indeed pay the person who is updating the app and then collect money after that. Monroe Livingston will at the very least pay half. The amount it's going to cost us to update the app with the new protocols will be maximum $7,500. And I would like to make a motion that we approve, please, up to $3,750 to support the update of the application to make sure that our providers can continue to have this resource.
Jim's made a motion. Second. And would that come from the radio fund?
I would like this to come from the radio fund, please, because this is a direct a product that will directly influence the provision of care in the region.
Okay. Jim, that you're okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right.
Just one note, I attended the state program directors meeting today. This was discussed at length, and I told them about the price. I think we'll have buy-in from every other region there. So even though we're outlaying $3,750, we'll recoup everything but our share of that, which would be give or take $500.
Okay, well, that's great. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. So here's the next logical question to ask you. So the new EMT curriculum, the new EMT protocols, basic EMT state protocols. If you're an EMS agency that is not sitting on the state council and not in this room and hasn't been privy to months of conversation about how they're going to implement the new protocols, do they have instructions yet? And are they coming from us? Are they coming from the state? Or do we just have no idea?
Yes, yes, and yes.
And I know that's a loaded question. As an ambulance provider, I just don't know the answer.
I think the answer is yes, 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 and maybe.
Okay.
You know, if somebody were to just follow the directions from the state and use the state's training that has been done by the director of training for the state, it's good education. It's using their new learning management system, and I think that's absolutely fine. If somebody is going to use the training that we'll have available regionally, there will be an access to the state learning management system that every EMT will have to go through in order to register and attest that they have taken an update. And that link should be sent to us by the director of the bureau so that everybody can attest at some point, either by going through the state training or by just logging onto the learning management system and attesting that they have done other training. And basically the goal is the state wants a database of all the EMS providers and an electronic way of getting a hold of people. This is a great way for them to do that. And frankly, I think that's a fantastic idea on their part. But these are two alternative ways that people will have to demonstrate that they have acquired the knowledge.
Have agencies received the information they need to access the state training facility yet? I don't believe they have.
No.
So the state has issued letters that have gone out to the agencies that said they must use the learning management system and the new training.
Right.
What has not come out that I was told was going to be coming to regions that asked was the access to the learning management system for the attestation process.
Right.
That part has not come to us yet.
Okay, so, forgive me for being ignorant, but, so the average ambulance squad has already been told how to get to that,
No,
that training?
no.
That's what I thought, because because if I know, I mean, I got a letter during the summer that said, you are going to have to do something, be ready to do it.
Right.
and I'm still waiting for a letter that says, okay, go ahead and do it. So
It's my
I,
understanding, and I saw in that last week, that that letter had been issued. If it's not been issued,
okay, so it may be in my inbox and I haven't opened it, it's just, okay. I guess that, Tim, I should be on the lookout for
Well,
that communication.
back up 1 minute. Was your question, did the state release information on how to access the learning management system? Was that?
Yes,
Yes.
to who?
We distributed here, along with our email from last week. We included that at the bottom of that page. So I sent it out to all BLS and ALS agencies.
Okay,
The state did, John McMillan sent it out Friday, September 13th.
okay.
At the end of the day, we distributed it the next week with some explanations on that. And you guys should have gotten it, because I sent it to all ALS and BLS agencies.
So this,
Yeah, what is your list?
I don't know.
We're having-
I don't know where Shane-
Who's on the contact list?
Yeah.
I'd have to check.
One
I'll
of
make,
those email lists.
I'll make a note, but that went out,
I got it at the end of last week.
yeah, Thursday, Friday.
okay, so,
You should have it.
I should, what was the email titled? Do you know?
I'd have to go look it
Well,
up.
there's a reason,
but,
there's a reason I
yeah,
asked.
If Doc has it, because Doc was CC'd.
I obviously missed this, and maybe it's just because I was, doing emails, but I think we should send out an email that says, New York State EMT protocol update, action required, in the subject line that says, you all received a letter from the state during the summer that said there would be new BLS protocols and there would be action required for all EMS providers to do an update. Here is specifically what you have to do. Only because we're all in this room and talking to each other. There's a lot of EMS providers at smaller agencies that are not privy to the kinds of conversations that happen at the regional council, happen at the
Can
state
you blow that
council.
message out to every single email group we have, and maybe every single provider we have
I was
emails
gonna
on?
ask you who you have for Albany Fire now,
That-
if you still have me.
Kim and Dave.
You got them both?
Yeah.
Great.
this was sent out by Deb on the 20th at 9:55.
Okay.
Protocol update information. And it went to your Gmail. Yeah. Friday as well?
On the 20th, Mike? I don't have it.
Paul. Yeah, it went to Paul.
I don't know if it goes to you, if it goes to Bowman.
And it went to Dave Laverne.
Deb Cuffs, D Cuffs at remote dash
Am I in there, Mike? So I don't have it in my inbox.
D Cuffs at remote dash
That's important that we blow it out to everybody, not just agency heads, not just this. We could blow that out to every single provider, they need to know that. And
Well, we're actually working on that. We're working on that list right now. We don't have the capability at the present to do that, but we're developing that mass email list right now.
Dig out every old list you got and send it. Maybe not. I'm sure you're trying, and I'm not trying to put that just,
Yeah.
this is something huge. We only have, what, 3 months left?
Yeah, unless they change stuff
Aaron's
tomorrow.
got it out to us, and I'm not part of Aaron's, and it's
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Well, it did go out and it had a couple other explanations trying to answer some of the confusion that has arisen because of delay and the confusion in the state rolling out everything, so.
All right, well, we'll work together to make sure that Remo does its best to get it to every audience that it needs to get to over the next couple of days. All right, thank you very much. What else is up in the director's report, Dr. Daly, or is that enough?
That's enough.
Okay. All right, we already did REMAC academic, we already did the budget and the treasurer. So next up is the QI committee. And the QI committee met on September 4th. We have their minutes. Tim, anything you would like to add?
No, I wasn't at the meeting, but Deb and Jess were nice enough to present or prepare a fairly detailed note of what transpired there. I believe Doc Daly sat in on it, but
And so it looks like we're doing a little bit of a turnover time study.
yep, and actually, Doc McHugh might be able to speak to that.
Yep, so basically looking at the hospitals in the region, dividing them into, basically nursing shifts, 7 to 3, 3 to 11, and 11 to 7, and breaking down any outliers for turnaround time like today.
Cool. Is this because we get complaints or just
It's
following
a-
up on knowing that our ERs are crazy busy right now?
It's both, we did it a couple of years ago.
Yep.
We were supposed to do it every 6-month basis.
Oh, okay.
And then it got lost for about a year and a half.
Okay, so this is just an update to see how we're doing compared to how we were. Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much. Okay. COA committee, Jim?
We actually received what I guess would best be described as a partial or an incomplete application over the summer. It's the transfer of operating authority for an industrial ambulance service. Essentially, the corporation is a new owner, and as soon as we have it complete, we'll bring it before the
Okay.
board.
Thank you. Okay, information sharing, we have 2 disciplinary actions. Ursula Bazemore, South Ozone Park, for violations of 100, and Jonah Yoon of Plainview, New York, for violations of Party 100. The full text is noted in the record, in the agenda of the meeting. For your information, we have course applications from Greene County, Colony, and Moventive for EMT original refreshers, all that are beginning this month. We have a correspondence from DOH Petersburg Rescue Squad, whose certificate has expired and have not been responsive to contact about follow-up announcement to getting their operating certificate. I know Tim made several efforts to reach Petersburg. Were you successful?
Not with Petersburg, but I did reach Kathy Allen, who is one of the main EMS coordinators. You would know her title in Rensselaer County. She did not know anything else. She told me she'd look into it. If she found out
Okay.
or learned anything else, she'd get back to me.
Does anyone that answers calls in that part of the county know if Petersburg Ambulance has answered any calls lately?
No,
Okay.
and Berlin ambulance went out of service. They're side by side.
Okay.
And Steventown is struggling to stay online.
So
This is the
Berlin,
most rural part of
right,
Rensselaer
this is
County.
western Route 22 corridor. So is east. Is Berlin out of service permanently? Or-
Yes,
Okay, so Berlin, out of service, and Petersburg, unknown.
rumor is that, the pretty strong rumor, that they don't have the squad to keep it going.
Okay, so,
And Steventown right now is struggling. They are actively recruiting anyone and everyone they can.
got it, okay. All right, well, that,
That puts the northern part, the northeast part of the county
with,
with not very much. Hope's Corners has been picking up. God love Mitch Levin. He's done a great job, but if it wasn't for him and his folks, we'd be hurting.
well, and I think there are others that have stepped up in the Route 22 corridor as well. I think Mohawk has been doing a lot of calls.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
All right, cool. Okay, well, not cool, but we'll continue to assist, and hopefully Kathy can get some information assisting the state. I think that this is endemic of a lot of the things that are going on in EMS today. Some of our small squads. I think everybody knows that Westerlo announced that they were going to close at the end of this year as well. There won't be any gaps in coverage because Albany County Sheriff's is going to assume that operation. But we're seeing these changes all over New York State, but it's happening here at home in our region for sure. Okay, committee reports. The executive committee did meet over the summer. In our executive committee meeting, we discussed 2 things. Number 1, Dr. Welch's application, which I think has already been discussed here tonight. Actually, 3 things. We brainstormed a little bit with PJ to help him in putting the budget together and sort of looking at how to lay things out. And he's done a great job since then. And the 3rd thing is the business plan, which Tim is going to discuss with us under new business in a little while. No update from the finance committee, other than our investments are enjoying the overly optimistic view of the markets that seem to continue to grow. And on the New York State EMS Council, the council meets on Wednesday. A couple things on the agenda to tell you about. I'll just mention them to you now. Number one is the Training and Education Committee is going to discuss whether or not we move our AEMT protocol to the national standards. I think we only have one AEMT agency now, is that right? Or two in the region.
Yeah, a couple in Greene County, Carroll still, yeah.
Carroll, Durham. Carroll, Durham, right? Yeah, Carroll, Durham.
And then Delmar, Bethlehem, and Ravina's not anymore? So, we have a couple.
I don't think they
Anyway,
are.
There will be a discussion about whether or not to make that change. The second thing that's coming up is a proposal for Part 800 regulatory changes. You'll hear much more about this next month's meeting, but essentially the Department of Health has come up with a number of things that they would like to do in Part 800 that will take away some of the bureaucracy in the system. And one of those things is going to be giving the commissioner the authority to make decisions about ambulance equipment, so that Part 800 doesn't have to be amended every time we decide we don't want bike locks, or, something of that sort. There's also discussion of lengthening the CME, the EMT certification period from 36 to 48 months between CME refreshers. There's going to be a change in the definition of employment or active participation for the purposes of recertification, so that somebody who is now not actively riding for an EMS squad but can demonstrate their skills can recertify under the CME program. The CME recertification program manual is now completed and should be issued soon. And I think that one of the provisions of participating in the CME recertification program going forward is going to be a agency must have electronic charting by 2022 to participate in the CME recertification program. So you've got a couple years to make that decision if you want to.
What was that, the date?
2022, I don't know the date of 2022. And it's certainly not a hard date at the moment. It will become a hard date after voting on. And I understand that EMT state exam testing is going online. You'll be able to report to a testing center at a time of your choosing within a defined time period after the class ends, and you'll be able to walk out with your score. And I believe there's 60-something testing, there'll be 60-something testing centers in the state. And I think that's pretty much it for what's going to happen at Remsco this week that's relevant to us. And as Tim said, I think most people have seen, they created a whole new category of awards that will be going forward. They're called the Vital Signs Awards, and they're for innovations in education, innovations in operations, innovation in quality. And the idea is that when those awards are given out, the agencies that win those awards will then come to Vital Signs and do a little presentation as part of the educational programming on, here's the innovations we did that you can replicate back home. All right. Nurses Committee, Emery.
The report, we did not meet over the summer.
Okay. Anything scheduled?
Hopefully the end of this month.
Okay, cool. All right, and MCI Committee, PJ?
No report?
Len, membership.
No report.
Okay. As I did say, I ran into the Deputy Chief of Albany Fire in the parking lot, who did express interest in perhaps having a seat going forward, and he was going to ask his chief to write a letter requesting that to the Remsco, so that letter may be coming to.
The membership committee had a brief meeting before this one,
Okay.
and we've drafted a letter we think will do the job you'd like it to do.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. So then no other report. Okay. Nominating committee. No. Let's will you be willing to be the nominating committee chair for next year?
Yes, I will.
Okay. So there will be reports in a couple months then.
Probably,
Okay.
yes.
Awards committee. Professor Wood.
He's talking to you, Darrell.
No one report. Once they report it's over, it's been done for a while.
Well, October 8th, Brian's hosting a big party, you're all invited.
Oh, no, okay, yeah. Steve's got the open bar.
So October 8th, would we have any numbers of signups yet?
We are in the mid-60s right now,
Do we have a cap that takes place?
100.
Okay, we're not quite there. All right, so, okay, and thank you to St. Peter's Health Partners for sponsoring our dinner at a off-campus site this year. Okay, I know there's nothing going on in the bylaws committee, right, that I know of?
No, sir.
Okay. County reports, Albany.
Nothing to report.
Columbia.
Basically, the EMS Advisory Board had a presentation looking to do possibly some cooperative health insurance buying. So we're still looking for ways of operational efficiencies.
Okay. Green County.
We're hosting some core content classes. We did one in September, there'll be another one in November, and then another one in December.
Any report from Rensselaer? No, Kathy's not here. Okay. Saratoga? No report tonight? Okay. Schenectady, Jim?
The only thing to report is our chairman, Pete Brody, has announced that he's stepping down, and we're entertaining people who may want to replace him. Other than that, that's it.
Okay. All right, so, now we're on to new business. So we've done the operating budget, we've done the at-large position, we talked about Momentive. We did the 3,750. We have, two things left, the remote business plan. Why don't we do the short one quick, from the regional medical director, the NECC grant, Mike, and then we'll go back and do the business plan, okay?
Sure, so the NECC grant is a very small grant from the Northeastern Cerebrovascular Consortium that we are going to use to support the Get With The Guidelines review of the hospitals in the region and see how we're doing with endovascular and large vessel occlusion stroke care. Goal here is to look at where we are with door in, door out, and interfacility transfer of stroke patients, and then make sure that we get better, which we can do. So we've got a budget that will include a small amount of money for the stroke coordinators at each of the facilities within the region, including Glens Falls, and we have a grant for 2 years. So excited to have that grant to be able to use that as sort of a focal point for quality improvement.
Cool. Okay. All right, remote business plan, so.
Before we get to that,
Okay.
Steve, could you look at the fourth bullet point there? It does deal with Momentive, but it's a little different. Over the summer, the council here approved their core sponsorship renewal by email vote, and I'd just like to read it into the record so we have a written record of that. So,
And so done.
done.
All right. Okay, so Tim, the last large item on tonight's agenda is remote business plan. I'd like to thank Tim for working on this over the spring and the summer. It started out as our business plan for 2019. It's morphed into our business plan for 2019 and 20. Has a very comprehensive set of things that the regional would like to accomplish. So Tim's going to talk about it, and I think everyone has received it, right? So
There are extra
opportunity to read it.
extra copies here if anybody wants to look at this. There's a lot of information here. It's fairly extensive. I just distribute it to everybody. This is round 2 of the plan. If you're all aware that Steve tasked me with this project several years ago, I think actually when we were at the old site, to prepare a business plan. It's never been done, well, at least since I've been here, it's never been done before. So the business plan, in my opinion, is something that tells people about this organization, who we are, who we represent, what we want to do, and how we're going to get there, be it short-term or be it long-term. The first plan set out a number of objectives, short and long term, and we managed to accomplish most of those objectives. Some of them I rolled into the new plan too. So basically, this is a blueprint of this organization according to Tim Mirabli. Everybody around this table may have a little bit different opinion or thought process as to how this agency should move forward, how should we evolve. But I was tasked with the job, and this is my opinion of Remo and where we are now and where I think we should be going. And I'd skip right to page 8, and I'll read some of that. That's the most important page, in my opinion. Those are the objectives. What do we need to do, and how are we going to accomplish those objectives? But before I get to that, there's one thing that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I put that in this plan, is the mission statement of this organization. In my opinion, a mission statement should be short and succinct. Our mission statement is about this long. And in my opinion, I think it's fairly outdated. So one thing I would like to task the council with is to please go back and review that mission statement and make a determination of whether or not it's still relevant to this organization and what we do and where we want to go. Because I think if you look at that, I think you can make some changes in that. Shorten it. Short and sweet, but I think it's long overdue that this body examines that mission statement. So I think the meat and potatoes of the plan are what I call our short-term objectives and our long-term objectives. And some of the ones that I thought were the most important, number one was that mission statement and the reassessment of that. And there's a couple other things that I looked at when I developed the first plan, and actually when I was working on the second plan internally here, some things that we needed to do. And one of the things I put in the first plan was the resurrection of the QA committee. And we did that, and we accomplished that. And we have, I think, a fairly robust, active QA committee right now. And I think they've done more in the last several months, 6 months to a year, than they have in the last several years or so. And that's something moving forward I think it's very important for this organization to do, is keep that thing alive, keep the committee alive, and keep it rolling. And so far, we're doing that. And that's one of the objectives I want us to accomplish. Use this organization to expand our education and training opportunities, course offerings. Steve spoke about the EMS leadership program. We don't want that to be a one and done. We want to have that be a recurring seminar or educational opportunity for the region. If we can offer a platform where people can come in and get a basic background and maybe some management, administration and stuff. And I think that's something this organization could do, and that's one of my objectives. We've started it with this. Hopefully we'll see some folks here on November 8th. And then judging on that, we reassess, and perhaps this could be an annual event. We'll know more, I think, after the inaugural meeting. Membership committee, and that's a big one, and I think we made a lot of progress tonight by bringing in Mr. Charles Welch from the Albany County DOH. I think it's been a lot of folks' minds here how we could perhaps diversify this room a little bit. And diversify it in a good way. Bring some people, bring some other allied health professionals in there, and Charles Welch meets that to a T. He has a very impressive resume. I think he'll be a very productive member of this committee. But I don't want to stop there, and I need help from everybody here too. As you know, who else can we look to? Could it be business leaders? Could it be some folks in the insurance industry or HMOs or somebody else that would be willing to participate here and allow us to strive to meet, our mission? So we're working that way, and we made progress tonight by bringing another person to this table. I'm going to move on to some long-term objectives. And what I call long-term objectives, and we're going to expand the scope of this organization, anywhere from 2020 and beyond. I didn't set a limit, I didn't set a 2-year plan, I didn't set a 5-year plan. Just stuff to strive for in the future, and a lot of it we're doing right now. We're working on some data integration, Image Trend and some other platforms, and we actually have a seminar scheduled here. I do not know the date off the top of my head, but we're bringing in Peter Brody from DOH, the e-platform guru, and the NEMSIS guru from DOH, and we've sent that out to the region and their administrators, perhaps to help them bring them up to speed a little bit more in knowledge or interpretation of the new NEMSIS data sets and stuff like that. So we're striving to do that. I mentioned the EMS leadership program, ET3, you know, and we're going to see where that goes. We have several agencies now that plan on participating, or at least applying. Right now, we don't know if there's going to be another round or not. We were hoping it was, but maybe there will be, and maybe we can get some more people to participate. But I don't see that going away. So we'll continue to work on that. One of the things we talked about in here, and I think it's something that we're talking about more often than we want to, is agencies that are shutting the doors. How can this agency play a role in recruitment, retention for these squads? Is there a way to do that? Is consolidation and merger more of a real, reality? I'm not sure, but that's stuff that I think we need to look at here, this organization. How can we help the region? How can we help the Petersburgs, the Berlins, the Westerlos? If there's a way to do it, I think it should come out of this organization. One other thing I put on there is community outreach, education, support, interaction. That's one of the reasons we joined the Capital Region Chamber of Commerce, to get our name out there and basically network and get our name out there to organizations perhaps don't know who we are, but down the road, maybe we could form partnerships with them in one business sense or another. So we're looking to expand our footprint out there, and I think we have to continue to do that. A lot of the day-to-day activities here will continue to be day-to-day activities, and people continue to be put online, come in and take the protocol exams, stuff like that. But we have to start looking outside that scope, and we've done it. We're doing it with this plan, and I think we need to continue to do that. I could keep talking, there's 14 pages here, but I'm not so sure I need to. I think I hit on the high points, or what I consider the high points of this. In my opinion, I probably could have given you a one-page business plan, but I needed a little filler in there. So I think that's all I have
I'm
to
going
say.
to contradict you in saying I don't think there's filler in there. I think you've done some real analysis.
I know. I throw that out there.
I know you're
to
being
people.
modest about
Yeah.
how you say it and self-appreciating, but Tim put a lot of work not only into writing this plan, but into coming up with the background information on the EMS environment and assessing where we are, evaluating where we were in 2017. In fairness to him, he ran it by a bunch of people now 2 or 3 times, and it got a lot of work done by Tim doing that, and I think that the product shows that Tim sought the input of a lot of people here. I don't know if it describes everything that we should be doing, but it describes a lot of things that we are going to be doing, and probably each one of us has the thing in there that they think is the most important and we like the most. For example, I really think it's important that we're going to try and have an email list that gets all of our providers on it. And when we first brought that up to Tim, we really didn't know how to do it. We had to bring some outside experts in to help us, because how to capture this. So we hope that, just like the state's trying to be able to reach out to people, it's got great educational goals, it's got agency growth goals in it. It's open for discussion tonight if anything has to add, but I think we should adopt it. And I think this is the kind of thing that if there's any document that I think everybody here should keep in their Remo folder when they come to these meetings, it's this document. So when you come here, you can look at the agenda and say, how are we doing on the things in this plan? Are there things we said we can do that we're not doing? And if we're not doing them, we should figure out why. It's a very aspirational plan. We won't get everything done in the first year of it. We But I think when we get to 1 year from now, we can sit back and read it and say, how much did we get done? Is it still relevant for next year? Should we continue it? Should we add to it? But it gives our team a lot to do, both as a council and also Tim as the executive director of the staff. So, Tim, I want to thank you for putting together what I think is a really excellent business plan for us.
Thank you.
So is there any, someone want to make a motion to adopt it, then we can have a discussion? All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion of the business plan?
I just want to echo your comments. I think it's well put together and well thought out. The only recommendation I would have is, I know sometimes we have a tendency to do these things and then a year later it's like, okay, where are we? It'd be good to have like a quarterly review or update, you know, from Tim to some of the points that are in the business plan. It may help us all together.
That's a great idea, quarterly update from the executive director on business plan implementation, okay. So I ask everyone here to, I know most of us don't come with big stacks of paper like I do to the meeting, but keep a copy of this at home with your Remo stuff, and look at it once in a while and say, is this what we should be doing? Or, you know, if it's on your phone, keep it, you know, in your file cabinet. One of the things that I think I had hoped we would do here is when someone says, when an EMS agency says, why is Remo relevant to me, have more and more answers every year. And I think that's sort of what we're trying to do. And that sort of tags back to what Tim said. So thank you, Tim. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of adopting the business plan, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the business plan is adopted. And is there any other new business tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to find out if there's any chance Remo can put on a CLI course. I think there's a pretty strong need for it. If they don't have the staff or whatever, I'm sure that Mohawk would be willing to help step up and lead it and open it up to people. But really need to get a CLI course. And then the CLI, CIC updates, one just came out and was announced. And
Yes, I
short
don't
notice.
know the exact date.
It's
Is it
Columbus
the
Day
October,
weekend. It's
mid-October?
Columbus Day weekend.
All right, yep.
And I know that all my instructors, when we found out, every one of them had something to do. So if we could extend out the period of time a little bit, it would help out a lot.
It's a
And-
conversation I've had with Rich a number of times.
And maybe, again, if nobody's objectionable, maybe we can find a way to put more of them on at other places as well, and have it state numbered and so on and so forth.
Sure.
So, I know we're gonna go looking for other regions to see what's coming up and so on and so forth, so, it would help a lot if we could have a little bit longer notice than what came up on that thing, so. Cause they're doing a great job, I have no problems with it, but, it just, a little bit of the ability to plan, because I think every instructor I know is up to their ears in alligators at this time of year.
Well, most instructors have things scheduled out for 6 months.
Please, but I would be
CLI
glad to
update,
host
or
this stuff.
CLI course for the spring is a fantastic idea. And, you know, following that up from there, based on what are the, I mean, the other thing that's a wild card in this is whether or not the state's gonna make any change to the structure of the CLI and CIC program too. But that doesn't stop the actual concrete good learning that's in that program.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I'll have no
that's
problem. I'll
part of
meet
that
with
spring.
Rich.
Well, I don't even
We'll
know.
schedule it. Interesting side note, though, at the program directors meeting today, there was a conversation on 2 regions that scheduled CLI courses. One of them canceled it flat out, and the other one had something like 30% of the original registrants show up to it. I don't know what that says for this region,
What was
but
our percentage for the last one we put on? I think it was like a year ago, year
I
and a
don't
half ago.
I'll
I
work
think
with
it was
Rich. He'll be in
full.
tomorrow.
Oh,
We'll
our
schedule.
last one here was full, and the CLI.
We've had pretty good
updates-
luck with ours.
CIC, CLI updates that we've been doing here have been fantastic and extremely well attended.
I'll
Those
get,
will be great programs.
Jeff, I'll get with Rich tomorrow. We'll get something going on that.
Thanks. And as I said, maybe we can help out. Not looking to glom money, not looking to do anything, just looking to provide a service and to be able to get some more people and keep the people we have.
All right, so it sounds like we got a plan. Anything else under new business?
I'd just like briefly to let you know, Carol and I were both actually at the RTAC, which is the Regional Trauma Advisory Committee. The RTAC is something that's been out there and sort of exists independent of the REMAC, although we cross over in our mission so significantly that in conversation with Dr. Edwards, who's the Chief of Trauma at the Med, the other folks who are working on the RTAC administrative level, we're going to do what we can to cross over and do an RTAC REMAC combined meeting at least once or twice a year. So anytime we bring people with very specific disease processes they're interested in into that environment, there's fantastic information sharing. But they've now split the RTAC, which is basically Arams, Remo, and Mountain Lakes. They basically split it into those three sections, but kept it a little bit more reasonable, if you will. There isn't a hard line below Glens Falls. Glens Falls is actually a part of the capital region of RTAC because they don't send their patients to Plattsburgh, which just kind of makes sense. This split of the RTAC into three regions to be able to best look at how transfer patterns are working and how patients are being cared for is important and is something we'll be able to integrate into the REMAX as well. So I'm excited about that, very excited about that.
Any other new business? What?
You're not going to Cooperstown tomorrow?
I am not going to Cooperstown.
The old business.
Where's the motivation?
I'm gonna go to Troy.
Is there any items from the floor? I've got just one quick, oh, you have something? I thought you did. I just want to, again, congratulate our award winners for our regional awards and ask everyone to please join us October 8th at the award ceremony if you have not already signed up. If you're going to Vital Signs, so there are 18 regions and 9 awards. Is that what it works out at? Yet we've got 2 of the statewide awards in our region that shows the quality of our region. That's not uncommon. Brian, if you would send the congratulations to Regional Council, to Sheriff Apple on being the Weber Award, and also proud to have Wilton EMS winning the Quality Award. This is the second time, and the Quality Award's only been given for 3 or 4 years, and the second time it's been won by a provider from our region. And lastly, being named Medical Director of the Year for the United States of America is pretty cool. So, congratulations to Dr. Daly. And we reminded me that we forgot to do the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. I very much apologize for that. So, Tim, what's our next meeting date? It's not listed on the agenda. Let's just look at the calendar.
Fourth Monday in October.
Right? So it should be October 28th, is that correct?
It is.
So our next meeting date's October 28th, 6 p.m. See, we went an hour and a half and we're done at 7:30. The 6 o'clock thing is working for everybody, I hope. And we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, so all in favor? See you next month.